All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Profit Lab show and podcast. I am your host, Marie Torossian, CPA and 10X certified business coach, and I am so glad you are here. If you're new to the show, go ahead and subscribe to and like my channel or the pages that you are watching us or listening us on, so you'll get all the alerts when we drop a new episode, which is going to happen every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time. And that's on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Podbean, and much more. Today, we are covering pillar number 5, which is all about elevating your pricing and positioning. If you're undercharging, you are undervaluing yourself and leaving a massive profit on the table. So let's talk about how to price with confidence and position yourself as the premium choice. Okay, so most service-based business owners are really undercharging, and it has happened to me as well. So I'm talking from experience, and it really kills your profit. So why would that happen? So a lot of times because you might be afraid of what clients will say, and they might say no because you have a higher price. You could be afraid that you'll be losing business, current business that you have with your clients, or that you're just not don't feel like it's the worth. You're afraid of saying, hey, I'm this is where I feel comfortable. So here's the truth: if you're delivering transformation, you're worth more than you think. So with that, we're going to get into the main 3 price mistakes that I see all the time that are happening. And again, this is all from my personal experience and working with different clients as a coach, and a CPA. So here's number 1 mistake. Most pricing is based on hours. Most service-based businesses are priced on hours, an hourly rate. Your value, however, isn't your time. This is not to say that your time isn't valuable. Of course it is. But your pricing value should reflect your value, not the number of hours you're putting into doing something. So your value is in the results that you deliver. Now, pricing issue or problem number 2, pricing based on your competitors. You're looking at what others are charging, but you're not them. And your clients aren't shopping on price alone. Anyone is not just price shopping. Again, not to say that there are some people, that are just price shopping. They want to pay the minimum and they don't care the what's the result, what's the big value. They just want to pay for the most basic thing. But this means you really want to know who your ideal client is, because if you know your ideal client, you will probably avoid this type of client prospect. So we just skip it. So don't worry about your competitors. Focus on you and what you deliver. And problem number 3 is pricing based on fear, charging what feels safe instead of what you're really worth. So, for example, if every time that you are talking to a prospect, you give them a price based on what you feel is like safe, they're going to say, yes, that's the goal. That's what you're thinking. And you close the deal, it's very possible you are basically undercharging, and you're charging based on what you feel instead of the true value of what you provide. So here's the 3 things I want to go through again. The 3 pricing mistakes that happen all the time: pricing based on value, pricing based on what the competitor is charging, and then pricing based on fear. So you want to avoid all of these. But you're going to say, Marie, you're telling me all these mistakes. So how do I fix it? That's what we're going to talk about next. So I want to bring you the concept of the value-based pricing framework. This is something that I worked on a while back in 2019, 2020. Being an accountant, the only thing I knew was to be charging by the hour, because that's what I had seen in the audit firm where I worked. But over time, I realized that's causing quite the trouble, and was able to transition into value-based pricing. So instead of basing on the number of hours it takes you to deliver something, you focus on the value, what you bring. So to be able to discuss that with a prospect or a client, you want to ask yourself, what's the impact, the result that I deliver? And we're talking about different service-based industry. It could be marketing agency, it could be IT. So what's the impact? So think about that. What's the main result that you get them? What's the cost of not solving this problem for the client? So what would it cost the client? So again, building that value of like, well, if you don't do this today, what would happen? So what are the negative impacts if they don't do something? And then if you were to do this result, if you do this big impact for the client, what is the return on investment for the client? Because if they pay X, but the value of what they get is, let's say, 3, 4, 5 times, 10 times X, obviously it's going to be worth it. The price would be worth it. So let's give an actual example. So let's say you can help a client increase revenues by 500,000. So then asking for a 50,000 investment would probably be a no-brainer because it's like 10 times the value, right? And so let's think of another example. If you can help a client get, let's say, 100 qualified leads in 90 days, and let's assume that means, another 100K of profit for them. So then maybe charging, 5K a month, to do the work is a no-brainer. So you want to create, think again, I'm going to come back to what's the impact that you're providing. You want to think about what's the impact you're providing? What's the big result? Let's say 100 qualified leads. What's the cost of not solving this problem? Well, if they don't get new 100 qualified leads, they can't add another 100K in profit. They stay stuck where they are, or maybe they get backwards. And then the big ROI to the client is that their investment is, let's say, 5K a month, but they add a total of 100K in profit at the end of the year. That's a big shift. So this is how you want to start framing the conversation around value to your client and how you can actually work through the numbers for yourself to be able to provide not just the value, but the pricing, value-based pricing. So in general, the simplest way to think about value pricing is think about the perceived value of your work less the perceived risk. So again, giving you an example here, increasing perceived value. What is that? The better results, faster outcomes, an account manager, that's going to handle every single back and call, every single question, unlimited, contacts, multiple changes, whatever that is. What is that? Well, what is that value? Premium experience, right? These are all the perceived value, higher, it's bigger. And then decreasing the perceived risk. How do you do that? By, let's say, providing a guarantee. Hey, 30-day money back guarantee or whatever it is. We'll continue doing the work until you are satisfied. That's a guarantee. You can provide, let's say, case studies from prior businesses that you've helped, prior clients, testimonials. These are all things that will decrease the perceived risk to help you be able to charge the value that you are worth. The other thing I want to talk about is your positioning. Your positioning is very important. So you must become the obvious choice compared to anyone else. Why should they work with you? So pricing and positioning, they go together. If you're positioned as a commodity, you'll compete on price only. Are you a Walmart or are you a Whole Foods? Just to say it. Are you a let's see, a Toyota or are you a Ferrari? Which one are you? So that's important because your whole marketing positioning is going to help you stand out that way. So your pricing will follow that positioning, the branding. So if you're positioned as the premium choice, the Ferrari, price becomes less of an issue. It's about the look, the feel, the experience, the drive, the speed, all of those different things, lifestyle, right? Again, bring it back to what you do as a service-based business owner. How can you be the Ferrari of the type of service that you do? All right. Here's ways to think about it. Specialize in what you do. Serve a specific niche or solve a very specific problem. If you are doing everything and you talk to everybody, it's just not going to work. You're not going to be positioned as the premium choice. Show results. And I mentioned that earlier. It's like sharing case studies of the work you've done, things that you've accomplished. It's like a portfolio. Testimonials are another way which other people, third party, validation on the work that you've done. And then the rest, the return on investment to the clients. What are most clients getting? What's their return on investment when they work with you? 30% increase, 50%, whatever that number is. If you don't want to say it in dollars, you can also say it in percentages as an ROI. And then elevate your brand. If someone bumps into your social media or your website, do they look professional? Are they polished? The materials are very polished. Do you speak with confidence in your messaging? Does it really exude the premium choice type of words? Not saying complicated, saying premium choice. The way you speak, the way you deliver the message, the way you brand yourself, everything has to be on the same wavelength, right? And then being selective. Not every prospect is a fit, and that's okay. And that's something you personally have to get to the point of feeling comfortable with it. You want to be able to say, well, this is not the right fit. I'm not going to be able to work with this person. And that's okay. You don't have to take every client just for the sake of taking the client. If you want to be the premium choice and you want to, charge premium for the quality of work that you do, you have to be able to say no to certain prospects. So go back to your ideal client, work around the messaging, your positioning, to make sure that when they speak with you, when they're on that call, that prospect call, you're able to charge them the premium pricing. Okay, so now let's transition into how to raise your prices without losing current clients. One of the things you could do is just grandfather the existing clients. How does that work? You just honor the current contracts that they have, and then you can communicate price increase or price changes or package changes. New offers are different ways that you can honor what they have signed up for right now, and then have communications up front for possible changes that are coming. You want to tell them ahead of time. For example, in my business, initially I was doing hourly, as I mentioned, and eventually I came into creating different packages for different services. So the communication had to change at some point. I had to reach out to current clients saying, hey, I'm actually changing our pricing and offering structure. I would love to have a conversation with you and discuss where would that be the right fit. So I had to walk them through the packages and say, currently based on what you're paying, you fit in this package. And that's okay. We can just put you on this package, but I want you to be clear on here's what we'll deliver as part of this package. Of course, you have the options to upgrade to this or that, right? So it's a very transparent, open conversation, but you're not forcing on them. Is there an option there? But the first shift should be from where they are, should hit that, let's say, your lower end price, whatever that is, wherever they are, that should be where they start. So it doesn't feel like a big shift. It feels like they're just still going to get the same thing, but in a packaged way. And then you can work up the numbers. And any new clients, you don't talk about any hours at all from now on. You just focus on showcasing your packages and how those things will give them the top results based on the type that they choose. So that's one way. The second one, communicating your value. And this is what the whole point of this podcast was all about. Explain why what they're getting and why it's worth their investment. Showcase that ROI, showcase the value of what you are providing. And the third one is test things with new clients first. You have a few ideas, you want to test it out. Try it out with new prospects first and see what their reaction is. And then based on that, before you roll it out for all of your clients, you onboard a few people on that new package, new offering, and then you go back and talk to the rest of the clients saying, hey, we're making changes and all of that. So that way you have tested the idea before you completely roll it out. Okay. I know this was a lot, but I want you to know that you are valuable, your work is valuable, and you want to position yourself as a top choice in every conversation that you have. With that, as we wrap up, I always have a profit question of the week for you guys. If you raise your prices by 20% tomorrow, how would that change your business? What would you need to believe about yourself to make that happen? I'm going to pause here for a second, give you a moment to think. 20% increase in price. And what is that mindset shift you have to do to believe in yourself to make that happen? And of course, if you need help, I'm always here. Send me your questions, send me your comments. I would love to respond to all of them on the following episodes. So feel free to send those my way. And the next thing is 3 actionable items that I tell you every week before we wrap up the podcast. Here's what I want you to do this week. Calculate the return on investment on the work that you deliver for your clients. Use real numbers. Like look at let's say your top client, and what do they pay? And what's the work that you do? What are the results that have happened based on that work that you did? And you don't have to do like all your clients, just if it's top 1, top 3, whatever they are, just take a few and look at that, because that's going to give you the confidence, right? The second item I want you to do is audit your pricing. Check it out. Are you charging based on value or based on your fear? Based on competitors, based on hourly? What kind of pricing are you using right now? And how can you shift from currently what you're doing to value-based pricing? And the third one I want you to do is set a new pricing goal for 2026. What would premium pricing look like for your business? What does that look like? What do you need to shift in your offerings? How do you need to package your offerings so it's easier for you to increase prices and build value into them? Great. All right, guys. So that's a wrap on the first 6 episodes we've done so far. We've covered the first 5 foundations of my valuation MT methodology, which focuses on, first 5 are vision and value clarity, assessment and analysis, leverage and leadership, upgrading systems and operation. And today we talked about elevating pricing and positioning for you. Next week, we're moving into the building phase of the pillars. So pillar number 6 is going to be all about amplifying your revenue stream. So you don't want to miss that. Make sure to come back, tell some of your friends to come and watch us and learn. With that, thanks for being here. I'm Marie Torossian, your host, and I'll see you next week.